Part one of making your dress is obviously once you've got your pattern pieces cut out, you need to cut them out of fabric. So we always lay our fabric out with, assuming this is the way we want to use it, we fold it over so it's selvage, so that's self-edge, selvage to selvage. I am not completely going all the way to the other selvage here because I just want to save a little bit of fabric. It would be a big waste of my fabric when I don't need to actually have it folded all the way over there to fit both these pieces in. So in doing it this way, I'm going to be getting 2 pieces out of this straight away of my fabric and 1 piece on the fold of this. So I've got my fold along here and I'm making sure that my fold line for my front piece is completely along that folded edge. Now in this pattern piece, it already has seam allowance included. So as I'm cutting it out, I don't need to leave seam allowance. I do have a preference. Sometimes I just like to leave a little bit of extra allowance at the back, just in case we have some fit issues and we need to actually have a little bit of extra fabric there. That is a good place to have a little bit of extra. So I can cut the whole thing out without needing to put any seam allowance in it. Remembering to use nice long strokes when you cut. And then I'll also need to cut this out of my lining as well. So for this particular dress, I'm going to just use a cotton lining, so just a cheap cotton, not a cotton drill, I was about to say drill, just like a top popcorn or something that's nice and cheap. And I'm also going to show you how to mark these dart lines on. So I'll finish cutting this out. Remember, make sure you turn it around, don't try and stand in an awkward way. Turn it around so it's in the spot that you want it. And you also need to snip where the notches are to mark those notches on. And that's it. Oops, I forgot to add that extra glue. Oh well, this isn't actually for anyone. So normally I would have added a little bit of extra at the back, just there. But that's something you would chalk on first so you know where you're going to add it. So wherever I have a notch, I just do a little snip into it. And remember which notch I want to use. I'll use this notch for this one. Snip into it just like this. And now I'm ready to cut the same thing out of my lining, and then I will show you how I will trace on my darts. Okay, so my pieces are cut out, and what I have here is some tracing paper. So this is a carbon paper and a tracing wheel. These are located just above the little drawers over there, right up the top. That's where I keep these. So what I want to do is I want to have this line here traced onto the wrong side of my fabric so that I can see where that dart needs to go. So a simple way to do this, if I happen to have my fabric folded wrong sides together, I could just put the tracing paper between them. I have mine traced right sides together, so I actually need to put my tracing paper on against the 2 wrong sides, like this. Okay, so you can see my pattern piece or my fabric has gone in there. I need to push it up a little bit further so that the whole dart can get traced on. And I'm going to be able to actually trace this all in one go. And I need to do the same thing to the lining, of course. So anything that I do to my fabric, I also need to do to my lining. So just use my tracing wheel. This is a very, very sharp tracing wheel. I did have one that was more curved and not quite as pointy, and I'm afraid I can't find it at the moment, so I might just have to use a really sharp one that almost cuts your paper a little bit. But what you'll see is, it's a little bit faint, hopefully on the camera you can pick it up, that there are little red dots along here. Now if it's not quite dark enough for me to see, I could trace over that again. Another thing that I sometimes do is take chalk. In this case I'm going to just take a pencil because this is light cotton and a pencil is going to go just fine on it, and I can chalk that on as well. What I could do if I feel that hasn't really, it's gone through to the other side a little bit, what I'll just do is, now that I can see it really clearly with my pencil marking, rather than cut the paper up anymore, I can actually just trace it on using this. But I have to, of course, make sure that my fabric isn't pulling and warping around while I do it. And then I can see the red dots showing me where my dart is on there. And if you feel like you can't see them well enough, it's fine to trace those in with either a pencil if it's really lightweight, or we use some chalk if it's dark color or something like that. So I'm going to do this to my lining as well as my back pieces, and then we'll move on with the first sewing step. So that's all for cutting your pattern pieces and marking in your darts.